In today's tip, we'll learn how to publish a Docker Containers port, so its services are accessible from the host machine or anywhere outside. So to get started, let's create a new container based on Docker Hub's official image for the Nginx web server. To do that, we'll use docker run, name, we'll call this new container Nginx test. We'll use the -d argument, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. And then we'll specify that we're using the Nginx image. The -d argument means we're running this container in detached mode. The process is detached from our terminal session and running in the background. We can verify this with docker container ls, which should return something like what you see here on the screen. Note the port. Nginx is running on port 80 within the container. Now, if an application was running on port 80 on our host machine, we could access that by navigating to localhost 80 in our web browser. Let's try that now. No luck. Well, what if we look up the IP address of the container and try to access it that way? To do so, we'll want to go back to our terminal and enter docker container inspect format network settings, IP address, and then finally Nginx test, specifying the container that we're inspecting here. And this is going to return the IP address 172.17.0.2. All right, well, let's try using that IP address. All right. Our browser is trying to load the address, but to no result. So let's stop the container, which is currently still running in the background. And then we'll delete the container so we can start from scratch. Now let's stop to think a little bit. What's the problem here? We aren't able to access the port because the container's network address is still isolated from the host machine. Fortunately, we can bridge the gap by publishing the port. And sometimes people will refer to this as mapping the port or binding the port. We'll do this by connecting the container port to a port on the host machine. Docker provides a powerful range of options here, but for the time being, we'll keep things simple and connect port 8000 on our host machine to port 80 on the Nginx test container. Of course, we're going to have to create a new one, and we'll do that with docker run. It's going to look a lot like last time. We're calling this Nginx test again. We're running in detached mode. This time we're using the p argument. And then we have 8000:80. And again, this is built on the Nginx base image. So the p argument here helps us specify that we want to use the host machine's port 8000, there on the left side of the colon, to access the container's port 80. On the right. The syntax here might remind those of you who are familiar with volumes to the way that we connect volumes to directories within a container. After running the command above, we can test whether it worked by navigating to localhost 8000. Success! Now we can access the containerized application on our host machine. And from here, we could serve it to the outside world with the right configuration. In other words, we could take the app to production. That's a big step with important security implications, so we'll save that for a future lesson. In the meantime, stop and, if you wish, remove the container we created today. I hope this video gave you some insight into publishing ports from Docker containers. Thanks for watching.